Today, I'm going to be reading Chapter 31 of Ground Zero by Alan Gratz. This chapter is titled Blind. Brennan's eyes fluttered open, but he couldn't see a thing. He was lying on his side in 3 inches of water, arms and legs splayed out, and pieces of metal and wood on top of him. The darkness pressed in on him like he'd been holding his breath in a pool for too long, and the water was trying to push its way in. The air was a solid thing that surrounded him. He couldn't breathe, couldn't hear. He tried to move his arms, but they didn't want to move. His legs were like dead lumps attached to his hips. Brennan's heart hammered in his chest, and he gasped for air. His mouth and nose were full of dust and little bits of debris, and he coughed and spat and retched until most of it was gone. Slowly, dully, the feeling in his arms and legs came tingling back, but his eyesight didn't. Panic welled up inside him. I'm blind, Brennan thought. I'm blind and I'm lost and I'm alone, and the air is closing in on me. I'm never going to get out of here. Richard, he called. Richard, are you there? No one answered, and Brennan sobbed. He couldn't see, and his ears were ringing. He was all alone. Richard, he called again, but Richard was gone. Brennan curled up into a ball and cried. The world had exploded, and now he was totally, utterly alone. All his life, a parent had been there for him. First his mother, who had loved him and laughed with him and cared for him when he was little. He remembered her face, her blonde hair and pale skin and blue eyes, more from photographs now than his own fading memories. But the idea of her was still there, a tall, warm, embracing figure who picked him up and sang him lullabies. When his mother had died, Brandon had thought he couldn't go on. He had stopped talking, stopped caring. Every night he had cried himself to sleep. It was his father who had brought him back. His father who probably been losing sleep too, and who might have wanted to withdraw from the world when his wife had died, but hadn't, for Brandon's sake. His father who had read comic books with him, and had taken him to a skate park every weekend. They had been a team, and now Brandon was alone. He couldn't do it. He couldn't go on. It would have been better if he had never run away at all and stayed trapped in the windows on the road with his father, with his smoke choking them. He needed his father to make decisions, to guide him through the danger. Without his father, Brennan thought, he was better off dead. But eventually his tears dried up, and the sprinkler stopped, and the ringing in his ears faded, and Brennan was still there. He wasn't dead. He was battered and sore, but his head and his arm, his face, his arms, his body, his legs and feet, they were all still there, working. He had little cuts and bruises all over, but he was alive and in one piece. And he couldn't just lie there in the darkness forever, in the dark forever. What was it his father had told him? You're strong, Brandon. You can survive without me. Brandon was strong, and he had survived, all by himself. He didn't want to, but he could when he needed to. And he needed to now. Brandon put a hand down into the water to push himself to his feet and felt a razor-sharp burn of a broken piece of glass cutting into his palm. He pulled back with a hiss and squeezed his hands together. The mall shops all around him must have been destroyed in a blast, which meant there was broken glass and debris everywhere now. He couldn't see, and now he was lost in what was left of the underground mall after it had been nuked. But nuked by what? Had another plane crashed into the plaza above them? Who was doing this, and why? Why hurt and kill all these people? Richard, Brennan called again. He heard someone moan in response. Richard, he was alive. The cut on Brennan's hand still stung, but he had to move. He'd lost the handkerchief Richard had given him, but the feeling around in the darkness. He found a shirt from one of the stores. He threw the hanger away, and wrapped the wet shirt around his injured head. He couldn't see the cut, but he knew it must be deep from how much it hurt. Richard, I'm coming, Brandon called. Richard moaned again, and Brandon put his hands out carefully, trying to feel his way toward the sound without hurting himself again. His left hand had found something plastic in a cardboard package floating by the ankle-deep water, and as he searched its contours with his finger, Brennan recognized with a start what it was. It was the toy Wolverine claws he left to buy at Sam Goody that morning. Brennan blinked in the darkness. It was so strange to finally hold the toy in his hand. This is why I'm here, Brennan thought. This is why I'm not with my dad right now. This is why I'm alive. It's so random, so stupid, so meaningless now, and yet so important at the same time. Richard moaned again, and Brennan dropped the Wolverine claws and focused. Brennan was here, now for whatever reason, and so was Richard, and Richard needed his help. Arms and legs trembling, Brennan put his hands out in front of him again and shuffled forward, sloshing through the water and the rubble. The air in front of him was empty, but he was sure he was going to run into something. "Richard, say something so I can find you," Brennan said. "I am here," said a man with a heavy Indian accent. Brennan's heart sank. It wasn't Richard he'd heard moaning. It was someone else. "Help me, please," the man said. "Keep talking so I can find you," Brennan told the man. "I'm here. I'm alive," the man said. There were tears in his voice. "I don't know what else to tell you. I'm here, and I'm frightened. I don't know what's going on. The world's gone crazy." Brennan found the man, and they clasped hands like they were long-lost father and son, finding each other again after years and years. Oh my gosh, oh my God, I thought I was dead," the man said. "My name is Pratek. I'm Brandon." I can't see," Pratek said. "I can't see either," Brandon told him. "Oh, thank God," Pratek said. "I thought I had been blinded, but if you can't see either, then it's just too dark to see." Brennan was relieved too. "I'm not blind," he thought, "not forever. The electricity must have gone out, and now there wasn't a hint of light anywhere in the windowless mall." "What happened?" Pratek asked. "I don't know," Brennan told him. "Maybe another plane. Are you hurt bad? Can you stand?" "I think my arm is broken, but I can stand." "Help!" a woman rasped nearby. Someone else in the darkness. Brennan heard another person groan. There had been dozens of people with them down here in the mall, all following the Port Authority's directions to Church Street exit. Some of them might be dead from the blast, but there had to be other survivors like Brandon and Pratek. They found the woman who had told them their name was Gali. She managed to stand and join their human chain, and they shuffled their way through the darkness toward the person who was groaning. "Please let it be Richard," Brennan thought. "Please let it be Richard." The groaning man couldn't speak. Gali bent down to examine him with her hand, and she gasped and stood. "We have to leave him," she said. "Why? What is it?" Brennan asked, afraid it was Richard. I'm not sure he's even still alive," was all Gali would say. They heard something rattle and fall nearby, and Pratek turned. "No, wait," Brennan said. He bent down to check on the wounded man. "I have to know if it's Richard." "Stay away from his stomach," Gali told him, her voice queasy. Brandon's hands found the man's shoulders first, and then his suspenders. Richard had been wearing suspenders. Please no, Brennan said to himself. His hands fumbled for the man's face, and he felt smooth, shaved skin. Brennan cried tears of relief. This couldn't be him. Richard had a beard. Brennan felt a pang of guilt for feeling relieved when this man was dying, maybe even dead already, but he couldn't help being grateful. "I'm sorry," Brennan whispered to the dying man. Brennan stood, and he and Pratek and Gali listened again for a groan or a voice in the darkness. "If you are hurt or trapped and can hear my voice, make any noise you can so we can find you," Pratek called out. No one answered. "I think we should go," said Gali. "It's hard to breathe, and we don't even know which way is out." Please, Brennan said. "My friend is still down here somewhere." "I'm sorry, boy," said Pratek. "But if we haven't heard him by now, just let me look a little more," Brennan told him. He couldn't leave Richard behind, not after all they've been through together. "Richard," Brennan called. "Richard!" Long moments went by, and Brennan could sense the other two survivors growing restless. They wanted to get out of here. He did too. Brennan pulled the human chain farther into the darkness, desperate to find his friend. "Richard!" he cried. Then softly, Brennan thought he'd heard something. Was that singing? Brennan's ears were still buzzing. Maybe they were playing tricks on him. But no, others stopped to listen too. "Richard," Brennan called. There was no answer, just the instinct hum of tune. "I think it's coming from this way." Gali said, pulling them gently in the dark. Faintly, almost no more whisper, came from the words to a familiar song. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island. Brandon gasped. It was Richard. That's all for today. Thank you for listening.